Let's try this. This is like take 3. Hello and welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. Please, if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Please, if you like the video, push like. You guys, this is take number 3 or 4. I did a video on my way up to Fort Smith. It was pretty decent, and then had to be changed. Right now, it was more than 3/4 of the way through the video, and my neighbor, or my friend Jim, who I've told you guys about, was outside, possibly drinking, waving, and had to stop because it was too distracting. Anyway, here we are, Bob Monday. Over 6,000 subscribers. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's a lot for a show as new as mine. I'm grateful and I am very thankful. And I'm thankful to you that have been there from the beginning, and those of you that just pushed me over the edge, and all the rest of you in between. Bob Monday. Tony Calabrese, Tough Man Tony, Chicago outfit, enforcer, vicious dude. One who is known not to talk or be a stool pigeon. 2014 at FCI Terre Haute, whatever you want to say, proper or improper. I lived in C Block. C Block had cells, opened communal bathrooms. The doors didn't lock. Pretty good block. The only other block better than C was G Block. G Block is 40 and over. Anyway, that's irrelevant at this point. There was a guy in our unit named Big Chris. Big Chris was a giant. When I say giant, we're talking like 7'8", a big guy, big eater. He just liked to eat all day. Him and a guy named Jesse Colon, who I like a lot. Jesse Colon was a Niñeta from, he's a Puerto Rican, but he was actually born and raised in Indiana. What town was it? Right by Chicago. Anyway, Jesse and Big Chris spent their evenings and afternoons eating. They were eaters. It came out that Big Chris was hot, was a rat. What had happened was there was circulation that this guy was no good. And one of the staff members actually pulled up his PSI or made copies of Big Chris's pre-sentence investigation report, passed it to a trusting inmate, and that inmate then in turn made copies and passed it out. Now, I read it. The truth is that yes, I do believe that Big Chris was an informant, but it didn't specifically state it. It alluded to the fact that he told on a co-defendant. It wasn't clear. Big Chris had ties to the vice lords. He had ties to Nietas, and he had, what other? He was cool with some white guys, and he had a lot of money to throw around. This guy threw around lots of money. So when a person has a lot of money, people tend to overlook things like, oh, I don't know, he might be a rat. But in the midst of all this thing about what's going to happen with Big Chris, you had some guys that wanted to run him off. You had some guys that wanted to jump him. You had run him off and make him go to protective custody. In the midst of all this comes a guy named Tony. Tony Calabrese, as I said in the beginning of the show, is a confirmed member of the Chicago outfit. Known enforcer, brutal on the street, known for not talking. And as soon as he got there, Big Chris came to all the white guys and said, hey, this guy Tony's a rat, an institutional rat. At Rochester, I believe it was, Chris said Tony was telling on some inmates. In turn, Tony sees Big Chris and goes and tells the white guys, this guy's a rat. Not only is he a rat, and he was from his case and from in prison, but he was also having having oral sex with many men. Big Chris was married, by the way. So you got this he said, she said, they said, all said stuff going on back and forth. But what ends up happening basically is nothing. Big Chris had money, so he's able to calm all the stuff going on about him by paying all the right people. Tony was the stereotypical Italian mobster, spoke the part, walked the part, looked the part, acted the part, and When he got his cell, which he bought a cell for a couple $100, which people with money do. He had it painted quickly, which people with money do. And he put up newspaper clippings that were laminated of himself. Mob hitman, da-da-da-da. Mob hitman, da-da. So he decorated his cell with laminated newspaper clippings of himself, which to me screamed red flag. Now, I didn't know Tony Calabrese. I did know some of his people that I did time with at Butner, and we were able to carry on conversations based on that. We did get into a little spat over the television. At the time, Tony came into the prison, or into C Block. We had just got the first white TV that they had, the official white TV, just a couple months prior. And because I was involved in the politicking of that white TV, I had my own TV slot. That is, from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I watched the Fox News, 5 at 5. Tony went around me and tried to pay everybody who was on dope money to watch something at 5:30. Now, I got high. I'm not saying I didn't at that time. No, I don't think I was. So there's different stages. Whatever. There was a lot of heroin at the time, and James Bolheimer was running the white guys on the west end, and he lived in my unit, and Shotgun was on the east end. So I think Calabrese went to James, paid James some money to make sure he got a 5:30 slot, which interfered with the half an hour of my time. What just happened? This just went out. All right, so, okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. So I didn't like that, but I got over it, and I do like watching Inside Edition. Me and Tony weren't the best of friends. James ended up checking in. That is the white shot caller for the West End, ended up checking in. I had a lot of control over the TV because I'd been in the unit at the time. And I wasn't a big TV watcher past the news. So Calabrese he's a TV guy, like all TV all day, every day. He used to go outside and do the sun, maybe do a few laps. Otherwise, he was all TV all the time. Eventually, Calabrese moved to G Block. He moved to G3. G Block is considered the best kept secret in the Bureau of Prisons. 40 and over, if you walk in the unit and you make noise, you're going to have people dropping kites on you, if not going to the officers, pointing you out and saying, get rid of him, he makes noise in this block. Quiet, hear a pin drop. Everybody was respectful. You did have a lot of people who I believe were hot, rats, whatever, hiding up there. There were some guys in G Block that you never saw their face in the prison. They never left G Block. Now, Calabrese moved up to G Block. It was the best unit in the prison. And what he did was he immediately bought himself a cell. And for all intents and purposes was doing good. Also, he got a job as the orderly in the hospital. Then he became the head orderly and had any of the other orderlies fired. He arranged it where for a while it was him alone. He would get some help, but then he would make sure that they were gone. He had the thing on lock. He had the hospital on lock. And let me tell you, being a hospital orderly, number one, you're around women. That's why most guys want to work there. Number two, you're around meds. So guys can get pills. I'm not saying Tony did. That's not true. That's not what he did in the beginning. So he wasn't a pill guy. And he didn't get syringes. All these are things that are accessible if you work in the hospital. Hot trash has all the meds that are thrown away. Guys have scripts of Percocets, morphine, and all that stuff. When they're gone, when they leave, whatever, or if they just don't go to pill line, they throw it out in the trash can. An orderly comes and scoops it up, and out they go. And if you're an orderly, you rip up the trash cans and you take the drugs. It's a coveted job. It's a special job. Okay. Brian Chappell, who I know very well, was into it with staff. You guys are going to hear more about Brian Chappell in the future. One day he was arguing with the PA named Mata. Chappell had heart attacks and strokes in the past. She wanted him to lift his arm up when he was taking his blood pressure. He was throwing a fit. Calabrese opens the door, which was cracked, and says, "Hey, you better be respectful to her." Brian Chappell, whom I have on tape, and I wish I would have thought about it. Actually, I did in version 2 of this. Brian Chappell told Calabrese to shut the door. He'd fuck him up right then and there. He'd said he made a lot worse statements than that. Later that night, Chappell, who also lived in G Block and was good friends with an outlaw by the name of Mad, close friends, very close friends with Mattis, by the way, went into Calabrese's cell, sat down and told him under no certain terms that he didn't care who he was, and if he ever disrespected him or took up from a staff member again, it'd be the last time. Calabrese apologized and said he wouldn't do it again. Right about that time, a vice lord came from Leavenworth and saw Tony Calabrese and said Tony Calabrese was a prison rat from Leavenworth. Now, I got involved in this incident because the vice lord there I knew very well. The head vice lord is an old man, but and I've known him for years, and because Tony had come to me about it. The reason he came to me is because there were some white guys that were wanting to jump on him. Now, the black guy, the vice lord, wanted $1,000 from Tony, and this is why. He claimed that Tony Calabrese had snitched on his cellie, and while the cops were shaking down the cell, that he lost $1,000 worth of property, and he had a confiscation sheet. Now, if a staff goes in your cell and you have too much, let's say you have 5 tunas, but you're only allowed 3. A dickhead staff will take the 2 tunas and make you send it home. This guy had over $1,000 worth of stuff that came up missing because of a shakedown that he blamed Calabrese for. So just to be clear, he was saying that Calabrese sent the cops to his cell at Leavenworth, targeting his cellie, and as a result, his stuff got taken. Now, this guy didn't want Calabrese hurt. He didn't want Calabrese run up top, which means sent to protective custody. He wanted $1,000. Didi was the old man who was a shot caller for the vice lords. Me, Didi, and this black kid and Calabrese walked a couple laps. Calabrese did get a little lippy with the guy. The guy threatened him. The guy walked off and said, "If you don't have $1,000 by tomorrow, I don't care about no white guys or this, that. I'm going to take care of it myself." Calabrese and I left by ourselves, and he said, "Go back and get that guy's address. I'm going to go ahead and send this because I don't want any problems." I did advise him against it. I said, "If you are saying that you're innocent, you should not do this." He said he didn't want problems, that he'd rather pay the guy. As a matter of fact, he paid the guy $1,500, not $1,000. I will say that I thought a lot less of him at that point. I understand the whole not wanting to cause problems, and especially this is a racy ordeal. I get that. But if you're truly innocent of something, the last thing you want to do is give up a bunch of money, and especially if you're known as being a tough guy. Yes, we get older, people get older, but there's still, foolish pride, or trying to hold your self-respect, being able to hold your head up high. And of course, once somebody knows that you paid, you're a target. Calabrese paid. Shortly thereafter, or around the same time, there was a guy in that prison who was the head law library clerk. In fact, I got this guy the job. I was the head and the only law library clerk at Terre Haute for about a year. And along came Lou Early. Lou Early was a very smart man, very good jailhouse lawyer, big, boisterous, braggadocious, complete idiot, but he did do good law work. And that was his hustle. He did that. I never needed to hustle for money for law work. I actually at times didn't like doing law work, and at times I'd get strung out and not be capable of doing law work. So I got Lou a job, and ultimately I quit. Actually, he had me fired, I believe, but whatever. And he took over the law library, and he had a really good operation there. Well, come to find out that Lou Early was former law enforcement. He was a cop. When it was time to run Lou off the yard, a whole bunch of guys got together and stopped the crew of white guys that wanted to run Lou off the yard. So you have let's say 20 white guys that want to go beat up this cop or make him go to protective custody. And you got about 10 guys in positions of power. That is Frank Wheeler. That is, well, I'm not going to name it. So Lou was working on Frank Wheeler's case. Lou was very good. Frank Wheeler couldn't afford to lose him because it looked like he was going to win. And look, I didn't mean to single out Frank at all, but there was a whole bunch of people that would surprise the hell out of you that wanted a cop to stay on the compound just because he was a good jailhouse lawyer. And in a kind of a way, it kind of makes sense. If you don't know nothing about the law and you need somebody to work on your case, and this somebody just happens to be ex-law enforcement, and you're in the middle of litigation, say what you want, but it's hard to say, hey, you know what? Just because that guy's a cop and I might have a life sentence or 30 years and I have a chance, this guy might get me out. But hey, run him up top because he's a cop just because it's the right thing to do in prison. There's a little battle going, that's a hard pill to swallow. Anyway, the one person that did not like Lou was Tony Calabrese. Lou went to medical one day and got into an argument with the dentist and the dental hygienist. The dentist was named Mr. Shepard. The hygienist was named Mrs. Rhodes. And I actually got along well with them, and Shepard actually did good work on my teeth, and Rhodes was very professional to me. Can't say that they did that with everybody, but they were to me. They didn't like Lou for whatever reason. Long story short, they really screwed this guy around, and Lou filed a lawsuit on them. A legitimate lawsuit for pain and suffering, an Eighth Amendment violation, a due process violation. I mean, he really, really did a really good job on this lawsuit. When Lou filed for discovery, that is, he filed a lawsuit against Shepard, the warden, Rhodes, and everybody, you get discovery back. So discovery is all your papers, any material that the government has in their possession. The BOP lawyers who were in charge of this case were complete and utter idiots. What they did was, Lou Early decided, just for the hell of it, I'm going to ask for Shepard's address. I'm going to decide to ask for Shepard's pension. I want to know everything about Shepard. I want to know all the rats in the case. Do you know that they gave an inmate who was representing himself pro se now, they gave him every piece of paper that he asked for. Lou had the home address of Dr. Shepard. He had the home address of Mrs. Rhodes. And that's just the beginning. The warden's social security numbers. I mean, anything that he asked for what are they called? In civil litigation. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anything he asked for, he got in the discovery process, but there's an actual name for it. I've done this before. I've litigated a civil case. That's why I can't. They're called admittances, I think. So, among the sheets of paper that Lou got were memos about informants in the jail. So let's say John Smith was an informant, and they made a statement against Lou Early. Lou got possession of that statement. So the staff was going around, once Lou had filed a lawsuit, they were going around and actively asking inmates questions about Lou. Anything that they can get that can damage his case, they were writing down. One of the most damaging statements to Lou was given by none other than Tony Calabrese. And I'm going to tell you here and now, if I did not read that statement with my own eyes, I would not be putting out this video today. because you don't just smut somebody up like that unless you know, have some kind of background, or unless you can prove it for sure. For example, I've said some things about Joey Testa. That's personal knowledge because it happened. I know what happened. In this case, you have Tony Calabrese, who, just go ahead and Google him, Mr. I Close My Mouth, Mr. Tough Guy Tony, and has been accused of being hot in prison, a jailhouse informant, 50 times at least. Guys have always said that Tony, so many guys from every joint that he was at said had something to say about Tony. Now, he's got a lot of defenders, and I'm sure that I'm going to hear some from Terre Haute especially, but I read the paperwork. As a matter of fact, Lou Early, because he had a big mouth, went and told a bunch of inmates that he had paperwork on Tony. Tony gets back to Tony. Tony goes and tells staff, and staff come and raid Lou Early and every friend he had, every spot that he was near, the library, trying to find the papers of Dr. Shepard's home address, of all the witnesses in the joint. I mean, he had some damaging evidence against staff and inmates, Lou Early, that is. And he was smart enough to hide all that paperwork / material. So, Lou confronted, I was there. I moved up to G Block for a period of time during this. Lou was my cellie for a minute. This is before it came all out. He was a cop and all that, by the way. I was there when he confronted Calabrese, and he said, Tony, if you don't go testify when I go to trial, because Lou was going to trial, if you don't go and say that you lied and staff made you lie, I'm going to put this on the internet, and everybody in Chicago is going to know about you. And I was there during that conversation. Tony said, I most certainly would. Tony also said that he claimed that staff was lying. When Lou further confronted him, he admitted that he didn't lie and said that he was asked to make the statement to hurt Lou. So I want to be clear about what I just said. Tony Calabrese admitted to Lou Early, who was out of prison and can be found if there's ever a question about this, that he did indeed give a statement against him, but that staff asked him to. Okay. Lou filed the case, and that statement could be found in Lou Early versus Dr. Shepard or Warden Bell. I forgot, but it's public record if somebody wants to dig. You can see Tony Calabrese's statement. Now, I know that Lou Early thought about having Tony Calabrese hit, and I know that there were guys who offered to hit Calabrese, to hit Calabrese, because so many people in the prison, well, when I say so many people, it wasn't like like everybody knew, but a lot of people knew that Tony Calabrese, that Lou Early had a statement that said Tony Calabrese had snitched in prison. Specifically, he told wards, dental hygienist wards, that Lou was making stuff up, that he was seeking narcotics, I think. But it was just an ugly smear campaign against Lou Early. Now, right at this time, it comes out that Tony Calabrese has cancer. And some people believe that in the ways of the universe, karma, whatever, and that Tony Calabrese got throat cancer because he was a rat, because he portrays himself as one thing, that is the stand-up, shut your mouth kind of guy. And look at the Chicago newspapers, Google it. There's 2 murders that they have pinned on Calabrese. He shut his mouth, he would not cooperate, and for sure he did not cooperate with the FBI. Well, it looks that way. I can't see of any evidence he did, yet he went to prison and did. That kind of doesn't make sense, and that happens a lot. A lot. Beware of the guy with the life sentence. Beware of the guy with the reputation of not being a snitch. Beware of a shot caller. Beware of a unit rep. Beware of all inmates in positions of power. 75%. I'm gonna say 75% of inmates in positions of power are telling in some form or fashion. Tony Calabrese got throat cancer. Some believe because he talked, the gods, the universe, silenced him, took away his ability to speak by killing him. Not saying I do, or I don't. Nevertheless, here's what happened. Tony Calabrese had an attorney who filed a compassionate release. I'm going to see if I can find this guy real quick, by the way, because I just Googled this a little while ago. Let me say something to this attorney specifically, so I want to be able to go ahead and say something to this lawyer. White House rejects dying mafia guys. Hold on, I'm sorry, guys, real quick. I didn't mean to do this. Tough guy, Tony, court records. Where's this jokester of an attorney out of Chicago? I want to tell him a little bit about himself. Dumbass. Tony Calabrese. Or dies. ABC News. Mobster denied pardon by Trump. Takes secrets to the grave. Takes gangland secrets to the grave. Hey, you know what's ironic? Tony took secrets to the grave, but was telling in prison. It's like, I mean, you can't. Anyway, yeah. I'm sorry, Tony, do I look like I want to be dead? This is what the guy said. Anyway, here's what my point is. To the lawyer who represented Tony Calabrese, one of the reasons your client, he filed for clemency, and he also filed for compassionate release. One of the reasons, he was denied pardon by Trump. He also filed a compassionate release. One of the reasons is because Tony Calabrese refused to go to a medical center. He refused to go to a medical center because he wanted to stay local and have his family and friends come visit him. Now that's cool. I get that. But if you're going to file for clemency, or if you're based on the fact that you are dying, or if you're going to file for compassionate release, the one thing you like to be at here, okay, so let me see. Here's Tony. Oh, I just saw his attorney. Mr. Calabrese's condition are deteriorating by Chuck. Where is this man? What's this lawyer's name? One of the things you want to do is have your client in a federal medical center. Remember, if you're dying, or if you're saying you're dying, and Tony was, he should have been in a and I get that he wanted to stay there for a family. His chances are a lot greater of compassionate release or clemency based on dying if you would go to a place where people die, where inmates die. So, Calabrese probably could have got out of prison. I think they were going to turn around him and indict him anyway. That's just bad. That's bad lawyering. That's a terrible attorney. That didn't. I mean, you understand what'll happen. Tony, do I look like I want to be dead? Okay. Anyway, you guys should go look up Channel 7 Eyewitness News, ABC in Chicago. Go check out Tony Calabrese. All right, that's Mob Monday. This one was about Tony Calabrese. Hopefully we'll have a story next week about a mobster that just does all the right stuff in prison. No, I'm just joking. Look, again, so I have to come up with stories for Mob Monday. A lot of guys like this. If I have knowledge of it, well, I mean, I'll tell stories that other people have, like I did the other day. I have a friend that's credible. This one I was totally involved with from start to, I know all about it. I read the papers. And you too, if you really want to read about Tony Calabrese, look up Lou Early's case. So it would be in the Western District of Indiana, wherever the Terre Haute or Indianapolis Division, civil case, 2017-18, Lewis Early, I believe. Look up that case. In the discovery, you guys can dig around. You'll see Tony Calabrese's witness statements, or contact Lou Early. I'm sure you can have them. Or maybe I'll try to contact him and post them. I don't know. But it goes to another one of these things where you got these guys that people think are this, but they're really that, There's some true guys. There's some stand-up dudes that'll never do something like that. And anyway. All right. Oh, I need to add this too, just like I have about Joey Testa. Tony Calabrese cared a lot about his kids. He had 2 daughters. He talked often about them. Was very, very loyal to his friends. That's how he did his time. You know, talking with people in the free world. Some people riot, some people do this. Tony Calabrese ran around, his whole world was the hospital, hospital orderly, whatever was going on in there, I don't know, but that was his world. And he was telling quite a bit. You know, that wasn't the only thing, but that's true. But hey, to each his own. People live how they want to live, and that's just how life is. Take it easy. Happy Mom Monday.